Hello everyone. Welcome to our webinar today. We've still got some time, so we wait while everyone joins. Hello, Fernando. Okay, so welcome to the webinar. Let us begin. I'll share my screen. We can start on today's webinar on project management. Okay, so I hope everyone can see my screen now. Again, welcome to the webinar today. Thank you for joining. My name's Stephen Masala. I am Solution Architect at Sulzer GmbH in Germany. And today we'll be talking about project management and perhaps what we consider a very innovative approach to next generation project management and how I think we can best serve you in your organization, and obviously also the clients who we already have and have been serving for some time. A short oversight of the agenda today. This is what we'll be talking about. Who are we? Obviously, Sulzer, for those who are new into this webinar or who have come across Sulzer for the first time. A small introduction as to what services we offer and how best we service our clients today and around the world. And then we'll step on to the actual project, or the topic that we're talking today, so project management and task management, what the common pain points that we face today, and also, challenges and scenarios that you might even be able to relate to, followed by obviously the impact these challenges and pain points have. And then we'll move on to how we actually envision project management to run in our organizations, what are our expectations, and what technological challenges we face today. And then finally, we'll summarize with the solution that we believe is the best to meet your PPM requirements. So let's begin with a short introduction to Sulzer. You can label us as a kind of classical IT consulting firm. However, we really do offer a wide range of services, whether it's software development or architecture, or even solution development. We really do have an extensive range of services that we can offer all our clients. Historically, we come out of the automotive industry, and as you can see on the following slide, we really do service most of the household brands around the world, but we are not just exclusively automotive, and we do have also an extensive experience in servicing various other industries in various different branches. We're set up internationally, so our latest office now in America has opened up, and this really allows us to meet you, the client, in every capacity that you require. So whether it's on-prem or through nearshoring or even offshoring, we really have organized Sulzer in such a way that we can really meet your needs. And most importantly, really, we can also scale our teams. We can build dynamic teams for you and your projects, and we can staff these teams accordingly, not just to the requirements that are presented, but also according to any budgets and that the project may have. So this really is one of our unique selling points. It allows us to scale teams efficiently and quickly. And I think in an ever dynamic and changing environment that we face ourselves in, I think that's really key to successful execution of projects. Of course, we really do pride ourselves in providing first-class consulting services, and we regularly also ask our clients to review us. And I think this short infographic is really a good testament to how we provide our services to our customers and an experience that our customers have with us, and also the real weight that we lay on on offering the best services possible, and not just being another consulting firm that you might have had experience with in the past. So enough about Sulzer and who we are. Let's move on to today's topic, and that is the project management, right? So today we're going to speak about project management, the common pain points that we might have, and how we as Sulzer tackle this problem for our clients and for our organizations that we service. And let's step into the first part of it. So today we find ourselves really in an ever remote environment, right? So we have lots of remote teams working. We have lots of our clients that have disconnected teams that work in different time zones. They're often isolated, and there are many different technological barriers between these teams, right? And although we have lately in the news coming out that teams are returning back into the office, we do find still a large scale of teams, especially those that have recruited over the last pandemic years, that team members are just distributed, right? And they're always changing. There's high turnaround. We have lots of different teams through nearshoring and offshoring capabilities, and yet still these projects need to be managed effectively and productively. And because of all this remoteness and distributed team setup, obviously the common pain points when it comes to managing projects is just a real difficulty in tracking project progress, right? There's unclear task responsibility, a lot of miscommunication through current tool sets, and a lot of it is just down to the physical remoteness of individual team members. And this ultimately leads to various inefficient processes, right? Because we always try and find different ways to manually gap the inefficiencies that our current tool sets provide. And ultimately, we ended up with a long list of redundant tasks and manual data that needs to be kind of like aligned across teams so that we have an overview of the project and the progress. There are some sort of common scenarios that we find ourselves in when managing, especially international teams or international projects. We have the classical scenario, right? I think this is kind of like one scenario we can all relate to, right? We've been on holiday for a few days or maybe a week, and we return to the office and we find our email is inundated with lots of different threads, right? Of the project progress, who's responsible for what, who's done what task while you've been away. And it often leads us to having to keep up with the email while we're on holiday. And I think anyone listening here who has been on holiday lately and faced this scenario understands that it's really not ideal to have to keep up with project progress while you're on your vacation, maybe, right? But that's just one of the scenarios, right? We also have just daily lots of email communication. It's a very quick and easy way to communicate project progress, but because of the common or the obvious impact that we face through reduced productivity and just general frustration and low morale among team members because of this overload, right? It's like an information overload. There must be a better way, right? If we look at a second scenario, right? So we often think of spreadsheets as maybe being something of the past, but you'll be surprised how many even large enterprises are still so heavily reliant on spreadsheets. Spreadsheets are used not just for financial data, but it's used from anything from we've seen it all from task management all the way through to managing actual projects, and this is another tool which is often quickly used because it enables teams to be productive quickly, right? Because we're all under deadlines, we all need to produce outcome as quick as possible. And so we often grasp for tools that are already at our disposal, one of them being, as I said before, our emails, but obviously also your classical spreadsheet. And to kind of like circumnavigate the shortcomings that spreadsheets bring when we're dealing with lots of teams, or even just one team that's distributed, we try and find kind of like technological workarounds where we maybe save the spreadsheet in a central location, right? So that we try and limit the data inconsistencies. And this only partially solves the problem. We still don't really have real-time information about the spreadsheet, especially if someone is working on a version that has not been saved yet. And this often leads, or what we've often seen with clients, is that this often leads to planning errors, right? Because of this general no real-time update of the project that we're trying to manage, and we're just generally losing an oversight. We don't really have a real-time oversight. We have like a kind of historical oversight of the project, and this is obviously also not ideal and something that we try to mitigate. So what does this mean overall for our productivity? I think it's quite obvious. We really do have project delays because we're struggling to find like a really accurate oversight of our projects. We've got miscommunication through inefficient tooling such as emails or maybe real-time communication. And that causes the increased stress, low morale, high frustration, and just general resource wastage amongst the teams, right? Because we're duplicating efforts, right? We're trying to always find the latest data. We're trying to always maintain an overview of the tasks that are needing done and who's responsible and in what progress these individual tasks may be in. And so we're really duplicating the same effort over and over again. And this overall leads to just dissatisfaction because the quality of the project really suffers, right? And we need to find a solution which really allows us to instantaneously grasp the key points of our projects, to find out really that our resources are being used efficiently and that everyone is productive, and also really up-to-date reporting and things like that, right? So I think it's important at this moment in our webinar to kind of like sit back, right? To think about maybe in your organization, to think about how can you relate to any of these scenarios. I think we'll quickly find that in our own projects that we're managing, that we can kind of relate to this sort of, especially email and spreadsheet scenarios that I've demonstrated, but it could also be entirely different scenarios that you face, but that are similar really in terms of the impact it has on your productivity and just general overview of your project and what it means for you as a project manager as well, how you go about organizing your teams and gaining sort of like a general oversight which is really accurate, and in a way that you can get the data that you need at any given point in time. So what impact has this meant for you and your team, and how has it affected the way you work, right? These are all important points to think about, and ultimately what really needs to change. What are you really expecting from a project management tool to help you? And I think this is really where we come in. This is where our expertise comes in, and we're really trying to understand what are we actually trying to achieve in our organizations, right? What is our actual goal? And I think that comes with a lot of expectations. Yeah, these might not be verbal, like or like real obvious expectations that you might have in your project management tool as you're trying to juggle lots of different tools to reach your goal. But really, we've identified that the real core expectations of any project management tool is that it allows an individual mix of methods, right? Because we often see that in distributed teams, whether we're talking about a singular team nationally or even in our case where even us at Sulzer, we're running multiple teams across different countries and in different time zones. We're seeing that different teams just simply work differently. And that's not a bad thing, right? But each team needs to find their kind of way to be the most productive. But we need to find a way that's really helpful, right? So that we can always gain a good oversight of the projects that are in progress. And of course, we're looking for tooling that's adaptable. Right? We're using tools like our emails or our spreadsheets or our real-time communication platforms, simply because it allows us to rapidly move data or manipulate data. And so we're looking for a way to that really real-time information can be shared and manipulated, right? And of course, all these tools ultimately are about collaboration, right? We're looking to collaborate across teams or within teams, and we're trying to do this in the most flexible and seamless way possible. And it's because the only constant is change, right? So our projects change constantly, right? They are constantly changing. We have often a set of requirements for our project, a set of KPIs that are important to us maybe in today, and then tomorrow, next month, next year, we have a whole different set of requirements, right? We have a whole different set of KPIs that we need to track, and we need our tooling to be so flexible that we can keep up with these requirements, right? Because the data, the core data that we've collected over time and the progress that we've been tracking is still relevant, right? It's just that we need now different information based off that data. Now we need to do different reporting, and ultimately we need new ways to implement these requirements, and also maybe extend the initial data set that we've been tracking, and also gain some quick feedback and some optimization potentials out of these projects. So what does this mean from a technological standpoint? I think I've kind of like touched on these points already, right? So often we're talking about lots of data being shared between organizations, right? We have large scale organizations, but this also happens in smaller or medium organizations too, is that we have lots of distributed information across lots of different platforms that are all designed for a specific use case, right? And to really effectively monitor our projects across these organizations, we need to find some way to kind of like bring all these data sets together, bring all these data points under one roof. And this is really what we're trying to do by attaching all our different files in maybe an email, or maybe using multiple worksheets within a single spreadsheet file. But we'll soon see, as the project grows, as our requirements change over time, that there are very many shortfalls, right? So we quickly realize that the information, although we try to build sufficient workarounds, say with a centralized network drive where we all save our spreadsheets, we're still finding that all the information is siloed. We don't really have an overview of all the data that we require. And ultimately, we then resort to further workarounds, right? We resort to maybe an extra spreadsheet, which kind of consolidates all the information. And we're finding ourselves having to do this every time we need to do some sort of reporting. So we're finding a lot of redundant tasks. We're finding a lot of repetitiveness in our methodologies, and we're also finding a lot of error-prone work, right? Because if we keep having to repeat the same tasks and we keep having to manually consolidate data across teams, we're at some point we're very likely to forget something or to oversee some sort of data that's critical to the project. And so ultimately, we really are left with inflexible tools, right? Inflexible tools that just don't meet the requirements that we have. So if we were to take a step back, right? If we were to take a step back and think about what would an ideal world look like, right? We've discussed the pain points. We've also discussed the kind of environment that we live in today, that we are in a more distributed and connected world. But what would this kind of technological tool set that we're all trying to somehow find by using really an array of tools to solve this problem, really we would like a centralized platform, right? A centralized platform that scales with us, right? It provides a sort of single source of truth where we're all connected and all our data is connected, all right? And then on top of that, we want to be able to sort of like build layers of roles and permission management so that we can segregate this data according to rights and not down to technical constraints. So instead of maybe sort of like the classic solution you see is that lots of different network files are made and certain permissions are granted on these network files. But this is really because we're unable to solve that problem through a technological platform, right? So ideally, we would have a centralized platform which allows us to kind of like build like Lego blocks on top of this platform, right? So that we can build all our different solutions that we need, whether it's project management or portfolio management or even our risk management within an organization, but kind of like the common tool blocks that we need. And this is where our tool of choice comes in. Right, so we work with Cplace. Cplace is a no-code platform, and they really do have a history in project management, and they really specialize in project management solutions, and have lots of experience in this sort of dynamic environment in which projects are run today. This technical solution is the singular platform that we've been looking for, and with Cplace we are provided with a platform which sets a foundation for our single source of truth data and really scales with our environment and most importantly also with our projects, right, and also our organization. So we can very quickly scale from a very small team to an entire multinational organization, and everyone can really make most of what Cplace has to offer. So not only is this ideological tool set, it's not just an idea that we may have that wouldn't it be great if such a platform existed. We as Sulzer really believe we can provide this platform for organizations to really drive inefficiency and productivity within organizations. And we've worked with many large-scale enterprises and also mid-sized enterprises in really turning around their project management methods and providing them with a more consistent and future-proof solution. Why is Cplace so innovative in this case? Well, Cplace, as I mentioned, is a no-code platform, but is also much more than that. So Cplace comes out of the box with 3 layers of development. We have on the highest level, we have what we call no-code development. That means that your users can adapt Cplace live during production and without any coding experience, right? And as we know, we see ever more shortfall of skilled developers on our marketplace, and so it's great that we can really take advantage of citizen developmentship, and our users can extend the data models according to their needs and in a really user-friendly and an almost fun way to do it, really. Then the second level is what we call the kind of low-code development. So that is when you've kind of reached the limitations of no-code, and you need just that little bit more out of Cplace. With low-code development, you can take advantage of JavaScript to really push the boundaries of no-code development. And so without too much technical expertise, maybe a small workshop or a small workshop, you're able to then squeeze even more information out of Cplace, design even more specialized reporting, and even maybe some graphics and some workflow automation processes. And even those two alone really stand out from the sort of common classical PPM solutions, right? Because they're often designed in a very specific way to provide a very specific workflow and to kind of force the user down a one road fits all. And this is where Cplace really separates themselves from other PPMs, in that we say, okay, we understand that especially enterprises, many teams work in many different ways, and to force entire organizations down one route is just not helpful, right? Because the teams will resort back to other tools to sort of circumnavigate this problem. And then we're back again in our classical scenarios of our email overloads and our spreadsheet chaos. I said 3 layers. There's one more layer, and this is called our pro code development. And this is where we can really empower our development teams within organizations, or even, you know, if you plan to work with us with Sulzer, we're able to supply you with all 3 support on all 3 levels. But ultimately, ProCode allows you to bring in your engineering team and to build super high, complex and individualistic solutions that you're unable to resort to fulfill using no code or low code. This is really, I would say, expert level Cplace. We find that 90% of our customers' solutions or requirements we can really fulfill on the no code and low code level. But there's always that one edge case, right? There's always that one team that requires maybe very specific integration from a third-party tool or a third-party ERP system, and we can then, you know, together with the engineering team, we can then build the correct integrations to again make sure that Cplace stays as the single source of truth, right? And then we can build further solutions using no code and low code. I've already mentioned a lot of this in the previous slide, but we really see that Cplace stands out as a truly enterprise-ready solution for your project management. It's live, it's adaptable live. No, so we don't need to wait for this kind of classical development cycle where we have, you know, feature requirements need to be drawn up, and then they need to be planned within the engineering teams. Then we need to wait for testing, and then we need to wait for for deployments and the kind of rollout that we often see in an engineering environment. We can really empower, especially on a no-code level. We can allow our teams to extend the PPM models or even their workflows at a click of a button. And we've really seen that teams are therefore far more productive, and they no longer require all these other tool sets to as sort of like workarounds for the problems that they're facing in their project management. Cplace is really, you know, as I said before, they come from a project management background, and so they've really proven the kind of industry standards, right? There's decades worth of PPM experience in Cplace and in their team, and they adhere really to the industry standards and best practices that are expected of teams and organizations around the world. So if we go back to our kind of like expectations, right? Our PPM expectations, we can gladly say that with Cplace we fulfilled them, right? With Cplace we really empower teams to bring their own individual methods to the table. Each team, although they're all working on a centralized platform and sharing data seamlessly, they're all able to work in an individual fashion, without kind of bringing in the sort of productivity impacts that we see in current scenarios, right? And then current tool sets. Rapid adaptability, I've already spoken about that in the previous slide, where we see that teams are able to change the platform or adapt the platform as they require instantaneously. And overall, we see that our clients that use Cplace, they really have a far higher rate of collaboration. The kind of gap that is the kind of natural gap in this remote teams that we see is closed, because we're all working on a single source of truth, and we're all kind of like able to gather real-time information, and we're not wasting our time and our resources in trying to bring the data as close to real time as possible, and we see also far less error-prone work happening. So ultimately, we're kind of removing this sort of classical sort of shadow IT that we see, right? Where we see teams building up a whole array of subpar tool sets to sort of like meet all the requirements that they need in order to manage their projects. So with this, we come to the end. of our webinar. And maybe a quick summary makes sense because we've had a lot of information in this webinar. So like the common pain points that we discussed, because of this new dynamic environment where we're finding ourselves in, where we're seeing organizations become ever more remote and distributed, whether it's nationally or even internationally, we see sort of like the classical pain points of lack of visibility within projects, real poor communication, like a misunderstanding due to fragmented communications, and just general delayed feedback and even approvals within project management processes. So we really have a kind of inefficient processes and lots of manual and redundant tasks being done. The challenges that we spoke about is really from a technological point of view. We're seeing ever more siloed data. There's real distributed data across organizations, and there's no real clear oversight. All right, so we're dealing with lots of tools that we're trying to integrate within organizations, and we see obviously the larger the organization, the more tool sets that they have where they're collecting different data, whether it be ERP systems or CRM systems. We're seeing just really a fragmented data set, and that doesn't really help for real-time decision making in organizations, and especially when it comes to things like reporting, it's a real struggle to kind of like bring this data under one roof. And then, of course, the solution which I presented, which is Cplace, which we really believe and has proven to be the project management tool of choice, where we're able to really bring down the number of manual processes and workflows, really empower teams through citizen development, and just bring organizations to a new level, where they're able to gain quick oversights of their projects, define KPIs in real time, adapt their tool set on the fly, in production mode, and really just allow the teams to focus on what matters, and rather than which tool do they need, and not to worry about data or communication getting lost along the way. So yeah, thank you very much for taking time. We'll be opening up the Q&A section in a minute, but here's obviously also my email address. Feel free to reach out. As I said, my name's Steve Masala. I'm the solution architect at Sulzer. I mainly work with our Cplace solution that we provide for our customers, and hopefully I'll be getting an email from you soon, and I'll be glad to get in contact, maybe even just to speak about the current pain points you have in your project management, how you currently work within projects, what processes you have, and maybe we can find a great solution to the problems so that you can focus on what really matters. Thank you.